Niccolò Machiavelli watched a republic collapse and a tyrant climb over the wreckage, and he wrote down exactly why one man rises while another gets buried. 500 years later, his rules still run every boardroom, every bedroom, every street corner, where one man wants something another man refuses to give up. He never asked you to be good. He asked you to survive. 12 laws, no mercy. Let's begin. Law 1. Fear outlives love. Love is a debt people forget the moment it becomes inconvenient to pay. Fear is a debt nobody dares to skip. Machiavelli saw straight through the act, writing that men are ungrateful, fickle, false, and quick to flee the moment danger gets close. Loyalty bought with affection evaporates the second real danger shows up at the door. Men who claimed they'd bleed for you will find a reason to be somewhere else, somewhere safer, somewhere that doesn't cost them anything. Loyalty, built on consequence, never folds that easy, because consequence doesn't care how anyone feels that day, and that's exactly the point. A man chasing affection is negotiating from his knees before the conversation even starts, handing leverage to anyone smart enough to notice he's begging instead of leading. Law 2. Wear the fox and the lion at the same time. Strength alone gets you walked straight into a trap you never saw coming. Cunning alone gets you eaten alive by something stronger than your tricks. Machiavelli laid it out plain that there are two ways of fighting, one through law and one through force. And a man who relies only on the first eventually loses to a man willing to use the second. A prince has to be a fox to recognize the snares laid out for him, and a lion to scare off the wolves, circling everything he's built. One nature without the other is a man writing the first draft of his own funeral, signing it himself before anyone else even picks up the pen. Law 3. Strike once, completely, then go silent. Cesare Borgia learned this the hard way and then taught it to the rest of history. At Senigallia, he smiled his enemies into a room, fed them, disarmed them, and erased every last one of them before the night was over. No second wave, no follow-up apology tour. The violence ended the instant it started, and that single brutal stroke is exactly why nobody in that region tested him again for years afterward, even with him standing right there alone among them. Law 4. Never let people taste your mercy in small installments. Favors handed out slowly are savored, remembered, turned into gratitude that actually sticks instead of evaporating overnight. Punishments handed out slowly are studied, measured, and eventually survived by men who learn your patterns and start working around them. Drip out your discipline one warning at a time, and people will learn to dodge it like rain on a familiar street. Deliver it whole, all at once, and they learn to fear the shape of your shadow before you've even moved toward them, which is the entire point of discipline in the first place, the part most men never get around to understanding until it's already too late for them. Here's a story. A foreman named Reyes inherited a crew that had spent 3 years walking over the last boss like he was furniture. He didn't yell on his first day. He didn't call a meeting to explain new expectations. He fired the loudest man on the crew on a random Tuesday morning. No warning, no audience, just a final check and a closed office door. By Thursday, the rest of the crew was working like they were being watched by something they couldn't see or name. He never had to raise his voice again for the rest of the year. Law 5. Fortune crushes the timid and bends for the bold. Pope Julius II moved on Bologna while every rival was still negotiating terms on paper, and his recklessness won territory that caution never could have touched. Machiavelli's own line on this still cuts 5 centuries later, that fortune is a woman, and if a man wishes to master her, he must conquer her by force. Hesitation is just the slow, polite way the bold eat the careful alive, one stalled decision at a time, until there's nothing left of the cautious man's position worth defending anymore. Law 6. Your word is a weapon, not a chain around your own neck. A man who keeps every promise, no matter the cost, has made himself completely predictable, and a predictable man is a man who can be used by anyone patient enough to study him. The sharpest leaders in The Prince broke their word the instant it stopped serving their position, and called the decision strategy, because that's precisely what it was, dressed up in language soft enough that nobody watching even thought to call it betrayal. Law 7. Cruelty has a math problem, and you solve it early or you don't solve it at all. Spread your cruelty across months and it bleeds you dry while turning every single victim into a future enemy with nothing left to lose and plenty of time to plan. Front load it once, hard, fast, and the bleeding actually stops because people adjust to a wound that closes faster than they expected it to. Oliverotto da Fermo killed his own uncle to seize power in one clean motion instead of a slow campaign of suspicion and half measures. That's the version history remembers and the version that survives the year after, while the hesitant version gets strangled in a back room somewhere nobody bothers to mourn, his name forgotten before the dust even settles on the floor. Law 8. Stay close to power, but keep your hands off whatever isn't yours. A ruler can be feared without ever being hated, and hatred, not fear, is the thing that actually gets a man killed in his sleep. Touch another man's property, touch what he loves, and you've manufactured an enemy who now plans against you in total silence. Take nothing extra, and the fear around you stays clean, controlled, and survivable. The kind of fear that builds a throne instead of the kind that eventually gets one burned to the ground. Law 9. Adapt or die trapped inside your own method. The cautious man who refuses to turn impulsive the moment circumstances demand it gets buried by men who can shift on command without warning anyone first. Tywin Lannister ran an empire on this exact instinct, calm and patient until the second the moment called for the blade, then merciless without a flicker of apology or hesitation. Rigid men get outlived by flexible ones in every era, not just this one, because the world keeps changing, and only one of those two men is willing to change with it, while the other keeps demanding the world change back to suit him instead. Law 10. Let people believe whatever serves your position. Perception moves faster and harder than fact ever will. Itachi Uchiha let an entire village brand him a traitor and let his own younger brother grow up hating him, never once correcting the story, because the lie protected something far bigger than his own reputation. By the time anyone else saw the truth clearly, the decision had already been made without their permission, and the damage of believing the wrong story for years could never fully be undone, not even once the real one came out. Law 11. Never lean your whole weight on borrowed strength. Machiavelli watched princes collapse because they trusted hired soldiers and foreign allies instead of building something that belonged to them alone, something nobody could repossess the moment loyalty stopped being convenient. Borrowed power always answers to someone else's interest first, no matter what the contract says on paper or what was promised in private. The moment your survival depends entirely on another man's loyalty, you've already handed him the leash and called it an alliance, and he will pull when it suits him, not when it suits you. Law 12. Disappear into your reputation and let it work without you in the room. A name that's earned its fear doesn't need its owner present to do the job anymore. Machiavelli spent his exile writing the very book that outlived every prince he ever served under. He vanished from power completely and still runs half the boardrooms on Earth 500 years later. That's the entire game. Build something that keeps working long after you've gone quiet. 12 laws, written by a man who got thrown out of power and decided to outlast every single person who threw him out. He wasn't teaching cruelty for the thrill of it. He was teaching what actually survives contact with other human beings, stripped of every comforting lie people tell themselves about fairness, kindness, and the idea that good intentions are enough to protect anyone. The world doesn't reward the man who deserved to win. It rewards the one who understood the rules nobody else was willing to admit existed and used them while everyone else was still arguing about whether the rules were real. Thanks for watching. If you want more videos, hit like and subscribe. For extra content I can't post here, join my Patreon or sign up for my free newsletter. I'll see you in the next one.